Hi everybody, Allison at My Safe Place here. I just wanted to put out a quick little video, who knows how long it's going to last, and trying to configure this so that the crappy camera I have on my laptop isn't quite so crappy. Hope this is okay, and thanks for watching. And if this turns into something that I actually do more of, maybe it would be time to invest in a better camera. But for now, this is what it is. So, what I wanted to talk about today as I explore this whole narcissistic abuse issue, cluster B issue, is I've heard and seen people post comments and people talking about it, about karma and how karma will get them and karma's a bitch, and it's always made me really uncomfortable in the sense that I think karma already has got them. And I'm no expert. I'm not a Buddhist or someone who proclaims to have any kind of expertise on what karma is and what it isn't. It just seems to me that we throw it around a lot as a way to sort of make ourselves feel better, that somehow life is going to get back at them. And the thing is that life is life, and good things happen to bad people, and bad things happen to good people. And, I don't think that's what it's about. I really think that karma has already got them. I can't even imagine living a life the way many of these cluster B personality disorders do, incapable of real love or intimacy, true friendship, a sense of trust, being absolutely incapable of interacting with anybody except through manipulation tactics, control, bullying, abuse. I think that must be the worst kind of life. I can't imagine doing that. And that really came and hit home for me, I think, after the time that my father passed away, which is almost 13 years ago now. My narc mother became much worse. It was as though my father had some kind of ability to keep her in check, if you will. My father was a very ethical person, a very moral person, Italian Catholic, and you just don't get a divorce. He didn't comprehend people who did that. So I think once he'd made a commitment to my mother, that was that. It was going to be what it was going to be. And I can now understand a lot of the disagreements and fights that they used to have, and his frustration with just how incredibly selfish my mother was, which I didn't really get at the time when I was younger. But after he passed away, it was like my real mother stood up and became who I think she's always been, and much worse. Now, if you've watched my previous video, you also know that I was diagnosed with rare incurable cancer in 1999. Went for treatment in the U.S. Because it was a specialized treatment for this rare cancer. I was lucky that way. Fast neutron beam radiation is what it's called, at the University of Washington. And during that time, according to my mother, she told me this after he passed away, that he had prayed that he could take my place. And if you're a parent, you probably have had this feeling if you've ever had a sick or injured child that you wish it was you instead of them. And I know I'm walking a tightrope here. This is an emotional tightrope. But as a mother myself, I know that I've had that thought, that when my kids were sick or injured, that I really prayed and wished that it wasn't them suffering, that it was me taking the suffering. So the first time my mother told me this, after my dad passed away, it was right after my dad passed away. During the week I was visiting home, which is across the country from where I live now. She was saying that he had prayed to take my place. And when she first told me this, I think I'm not sure what her intention was, but I took it as a sign of love from my dad that I really appreciated, and was deeply, deeply moved and touched that she told me this. And I kept it to myself. I really didn't want other members of the family to know. I didn't want my cluster B sister to know, because she would have turned it against me and used it as a weapon, that I killed my dad, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And what I didn't realize is that actually it was my mother doing that very thing that I was afraid my sister was doing, which was on subsequent visits back home. We used to go every year, sometimes twice a year. Each and every time on that visit, whenever I was alone with my mother, she would tell me that my father had prayed to take my place while I was sick. But after that first initial time she told me, she always added something after that, and it was usually something along the lines of, but I never prayed for that, with her voice dripping with resentment. So this wasn't just a one-time I misunderstood what she meant thing. This was a repeated occurrence. At least once a year, if not twice a year, I would hear how my mother never prayed to take my place, or that I was better and that she could suffer in my stead, which you don't want your parents to do anyway. But as a parent, I understand the sentiment behind that. And what's so sickening about my mother doing this is that it became increasingly clear that what she was hoping for was to deeply wound me, not to remind me of how much my father loved me, but of how much she didn't, if that makes any kind of sense. And as a mother, I can't imagine for 1 second thinking that about one of my kids, let alone telling them. Like, who does that? Who thinks that that's a good idea? There has to be something wrong with someone who does that. And this, among many other things, was one of the key points to me ending my relationship and going no contact with my mother and my sister, was this ability they have to go to a really dark place, which I think has got to be some of the worst karma that you could possibly bring on yourself. So when I hear people saying karma will get them, I keep thinking it already has. People, it already has. Imagine who you have to be as a person to do and say the things that they do. And I feel now that I've been separated from my mother and my sister for going on 4 years now, I'm starting to have a compassion for that. And it doesn't mean I'm ever letting them back in my life. No, I'm not talking about pity. I'm not saying, oh, poor them. I need to forgive. I need to bring them back into my life. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm talking about a compassion for the karma that they are living in this lifetime, whether you believe in multiple lives or not, that makes it possible for them to do and say the things that they do, and to live completely and utterly without the true human connection that comes from love, from emotional intimacy. I can't imagine a worse karma. So I hope that makes sense. I hope that people understand when I say compassion, I'm not talking about pity, and I'm not talking about allowing people to hurt you anymore. I think that can get easily misconstrued, misunderstood, that if you forgive and you have compassion for someone, that means you let them back in your life. I mean, you can have compassion for a rabid dog, for instance, and still not let them bite you. You can have compassion that they are suffering and that they they are going through something absolutely horrifying, and still not allow them to hurt you or hurt your loved ones. So that's the kind of compassion I'm talking about, and that's the kind of karma I'm talking about. And I don't know if it's the real karma or the definition that a Buddhist would apply to the word karma. It's just the way I've understood it and the way I see it bandied about, as in people hoping that bad things will happen to them. And I really don't want to go there. I don't want bad things to happen to them, because I think some of the worst things have already happened to them. They don't love. And is there anything worse than that? I don't know. That's it for today. Thanks for watching, and maybe we'll do another one.